Okay, so one of the things that John mentioned earlier was e-portfolios using sites. I'm going to skip through a lot of the slides that I have about this because this is something that you could do, what do you call it, PowerPoint karaoke? You could make up your own words to my slides, you really could, because my slides aren't even really my slides, they're Christine Archer Davidson's. But there is a really important slide that I want to just skip to, which is, in fact, my slide. And that is slide 20, near the end. I'm just going to talk about a few ways that I use Google Sites, and that my students use Google Sites, so that you can see some of the potential. Because creating a site, which is something we're hopefully going to have you start to do, don't think for a minute you're going to start it and finish it in the next hour. Most of these sites I'm still working on.
And I just want to pull the audience. Have you guys made a Google site at this point? Have most of you?
Yes.
Most of it. So really what we're talking about is some cool tricks, like this would be a great time to show embedding.
Yep.
And this would be a great time to show you guys some like deployment tricks. And like we can move into the e-portfolio. Have you guys heard of the broken textbook concept?
Yeah.
This is what we're starting to do with some of our history classes, where you take the syllabus provided by the state and the kids build the content. They're building their own textbook. And what the teacher does is moderate the quality, the citation, the resources that are going on. I'll give you an example of what I did with some 8th graders. I gave each one of them a constitutional amendment. And I gave them my criteria. I need to know what year it was signed, is it still active, summarize it in your own terms, find 2 YouTube videos that reference it, find 2 pictures, and they built a very rich little environment, which is cool. You can do that in a lot of ways. Here's where I made it more interesting. They each had to do 2 constitutional amendments, and at the bottom of each constitutional amendment, I put a Google form with 6 questions. So they all had to tour each other's websites, and it would say, what are 3 things you've learned? What is something that surprised you? And then the people that made the wiki page actually made a quiz. They used, I think they used, I can't remember what it is. Anyways, they made a little online quiz, so the kids, they were able to take a quiz, get it scored back, and then what did I get out of that? The final for them was 2 days of visiting everybody else's wikis, and I got a Google form of everybody's answers. Kind of a different workflow. So that's that kind of broken textbook concept.
So when you're saying wikis, you're referring to Google Sites?
Or Google Sites, yeah. At that point I was using a wiki, but a Google Site's a direct analog. Same idea.
Okay. So the reason I refer you to this slide is because you can go back here, and these are actually alive right now. So for example, the 6th grade survey projects, the page with the student sites is now blank because the kids just started this, and I'll be adding all of their projects later. So the links to their sites aren't there yet, but last year's 7th and 8th grade are there. So just to give you an idea, a lot of times when I want my students to create a Google site, I have created a site that's both the directions and the sample. So here's something my 8th graders are about to do a presentation of their research paper for their history class. They created this site. They created a site like this one, which I don't expect you to be able to read. It's about Jamestown, but it's really just a sample. They created a site like this one where they were kind of working from to do their research paper. Yeah, I know you are. I don't want to be that, because I don't really want them to read. If they're reading, they're not listening to me. Where did you go? Okay, so on their outline page, they have to embed the Google Doc of their outline. And there's some steps that are involved in that, so I explain those at the top.
And this is what I'm calling embedded instructions, right? They're going to take my template, clone it, and put in the correct information. So remember the old days, you would get a science project and you did that paper? And half the class would say, oh, I lost the paper. This has rich instructions built right in, and here's one more sidebar. You guys wonder what these numbers are?
No.
That's a countdown.
The research paper was due 7 days ago. Their site and presentation is due to me in 4 days, because they're going to present.
Oh boy, everybody, GPA here, GPA.
And they go to DC. The reason that they're doing this, each of the kids has a topic assigned to them by their history teacher, because they're going to DC, Philadelphia, Gettysburg, and New York City for a week. And they're going to see the things like the Washington Monument, the Vietnam Veterans.
You can build a site as a template. The kids go in and open your site and put their stuff in. They clone it.
In my case, I don't give them a template. I say make yours like mine, because I want to force them to learn how to do the navigation and put the pages in the right order, all that stuff. Another thing they need to do, they are going to be presenting in their history class, So they're going to do a Google presentation, which you've seen us using slides. Some of those for John were keynotes, but mine generally tend to be Google presentations. So there's kind of a little bit of propaganda going on here too, because we talk a lot about the presentation zen concepts of no one should have to read your slides. If you're standing up talking, they should be reading material for your audience. So this is an unfinished
I had 0
one.
bullets today, I think.
Yeah, this is an unfinished one. Well, yours were very visual because you had
Right,
things that they
but it was
were-
even a step by step, there weren't bullets. You know,
Right.
It was just, this is the only thing you need.
So this is not complete, but it has what my works cited should look like and what my image sources should look like. But for my kids, they're going to have more slides, so they're going to have more image citations. But the number of times that I say, how did I do that on my sample? When the kids ask me a question, I should get $1 every time, then I can retire next year. So
I do that
if you
for
were to
50
go
cents.
here, yesterday in class, I had my middle schoolers yesterday, so I went to each, this was over 3 different class periods with these guys. I said, okay, Lena, let's see if your outline and presentation are where they should be. In front of everyone, we go to Lena's site, we look on our outline page, oh, you didn't embed it yet. We look on our presentation page, oh, you didn't embed it yet, you need to do that. So everything's there, so the kids can start going looking at each other's stuff too. That way they're like, I have no idea how you do that. The kids sitting next to them, they say, I'm looking at your site, you know how to do it, why don't you show me? So they kind of, I hate that your thing clicks without me clicking.
Sorry,
We need to change.
I'll get a cheaper computer.
Okay, yeah, I know, right? You need to have the really cheap one like I do. Okay, so now, can't find my way back to where I was. Let's see if it's this one. Nope. All right, where am I? This one. Okay, so Jamestown is just, it's this whole history thing that the 8th graders are doing.
How does this change the mission report?
No, we do our mission reports in Google Earth.
They do a fly
That's what
through.
my 4th graders were trying to finish today without me there. We'll see how that works.
And I know some people are doing the mission reports in SketchUp and
Yep.
actually model the mission. They draw it and label it. SketchUp's another free Google product that you guys have access to. It's a CAD program that's free.
Well, this will help parents who now have to go out and buy all the sugar cubes.
Right, right. I mean, the sugar cube
Or
production's
spend
way down.
$5,000 at Michael's to buy the pre-made.
Michael's third quarter profits are down 12%.
They're all.
But my point is, it makes the mission report, which is a good idea, it makes it eminently more academic. Way,
They're learning a lot more stuff than
they're like
related.
citation, summary, all those meat and potato skills. And I'm not a fan of, I'm not against modeling things, but we know how many parents make those.
Yeah.
And we know that people are going to the store and buying them. So that's a lot of time and money, and you don't really walk away from anything that's prepping you for the rest of your life. Nobody does that for a living, or at least that one.
It's a semi-body constraint, you can parent-child have.
That would be the best.
Not when they fight over it to.
Yeah, not when they're crying the last night.
Okay, you
I'll tell
start
you,
talking about.
what's a better bonding experiment is when kids go home and show their parents this that's done.
It's
And parents are crying because they can't believe they did that. That's a better bond.
Way better. So you guys just learned how to make forms. Yesterday, my 2 class periods full of 6th graders also made forms for the first time because they're doing their survey project. So they don't embed the form to their page because when they stop accepting responses, then it's just this big ugly placeholder. But the first section here is all the directions, step by step. They're going to create a Google site for their survey project. But I also have my sample. So my introduction tells what question, now when I click it, doesn't want to do it. What question I asked people, and I used a Google form to do this, and then I have a page for my data, and my spreadsheet is embedded, and you'll also be able to see the graphs I made. Now, yes, when you create a Google form, you can do the summary of responses thing, but you can also create graphs specific to what you want and customize them just like you can in Excel, without all the dumb things you could click on and make mistakes with in Excel. They only give you what you need in the Google spreadsheet. So what you might not see here is that it's got these forms that are still loading, not forms, graphs that are still loading. I just gathered my data together, but let me show you them down here. Then I can save those as images, which the kids do. Like I said, these are 6th graders. Well, this one I made. They put their data in there, and then they have one more page where they do their analysis, and they have to explain what bias could be in their survey project, because if you look at the 6th grade math standards for the state of California, that's one of the things that comes with data analysis and all that stuff. And this all derived out of the year that I taught 6th grade, and I taught math. We were not getting to that unit by doing all the problems in the sections, so I had to create a project. When I moved into the lab, I took the project with me, and now we just made it all online. So they have to explain what these things are. And again, when kids say to me, Mrs. May, what's bias? I say, you're sitting at a computer, you have a math book. Go read about it in your math book, go search for it online, and then go read what I wrote in my sample and see if you have any idea what bias could be in your project. So it's not spit back at me all the things I've been telling you for a week or a month. It's go create something and learn along the way. And you could do a Google site for any kind of project that is. The 7th and 8th grade one is a little different because it's X and Y, like independent and dependent variables, so they're doing a scatter plot instead. But you can look at that. Those projects are actually still on there. We have a writing project that's kind of like blogging that my 8th graders do. They create pages for the different writing prompts, and then they all have to go and respond to each other. So they have to go and comment on 5 other people. And it's right as they're leaving 8th grade. Some of our kids have been together since preschool. Some of them started that at the school in 8th grade at the beginning of the year. They're all going in many different directions for high school. And some of them had a choice about that, and some of them didn't. So they're writing about that whole part of their life. And it's a great time to catch them, to get them to write and things like that, because you're in a really contemplative mood. Renaissance presentations, that's just a link to slides made by 7th graders. You can go and take a look at that. What's cool about this is I give the 7th grade teacher that link. She pulls it up in class and says, all right, Alice, it's your turn to present. Alice goes up, clicks on their name, her slides come up. Next kid comes up, clicks on their name, their slides come up. It's all just links on one page of a site. So you can have resources in one place that makes it easier, like you saw the kids' names on the DC Topics site. This is something I'll come back to. This is basically how I run my class without, like, you could probably put a cardboard cutout of me in the corner pointing to this website, and my middle schoolers might not notice, to be honest with you. They would notice when they don't hear soda cans opening up periodically for the class that I'm there. But that I can almost teach my entire class from a site, because I tell them go here and I can put a link in and link to this tutorial, and remember I showed you how to do this 3 weeks ago, here's the step-by-step, you can go back and do it again if you need to, all on the site. That says May 2011 was actually the middle school tasks website. 5th graders, this is the first time they got to make a site, it was last year, and each group of kids was assigned one of the 20 most common elements of the periodic table, common in Earth. And so we made a site together in class. Their partners were in a different section of 5th grade, so they couldn't be in class together communicating. They had to talk to each other outside of class to plan it. I clicked on something without clicking. There we go. So on each page of my site, at the bottom in the comments section, I say, here's what you have to have on this page of your site. Okay? The best part of this, last year I had 3 sections of 5th grade. We had created our sites, we had added some more pages, we had added our partners as collaborators, and it wasn't until the 3rd group came to class that somebody said, Mrs. Mean, we don't have anywhere to cite our sources. You're having us put pictures and use information sources. We have to have a place to put our sources. And I was shocked and embarrassed that I had forgotten that, because I'm usually the one hammering that into their heads, but then I was really, really proud. Because a 10-year-old said, we have to cite our sources. And so I said, yes. That's the page you guys get to add to the site. We all need to add our work site.
I'm glad you thought.
But,
excellent work.
But I actually said to them, after I pretended that was my idea all along, I said, you know, I forgot that, but apparently you guys did this thing for 2 years because we start citing our sources in 3rd grade. So they have to cite their sources. Another thing that happened is, as kids were creating their site, they said, Mrs. Main, can we put a video on our site? And I said, I don't know, can you? And so one of them said, well, when you go to insert, like to insert an image, it says insert a video. So could we do that? I said, okay, here's some things to think about. If you are creating something that you want to show what you have learned, and they have to watch a 20-minute video, it's not really about so much what you've learned. What if there's just a 5 or a 2-minute video of my element reacting when it touches water? That would be cool, wouldn't it? I said, okay, you have to cite the source of that too. I told that to one kid. 5 or 6 of the groups had videos without me ever talking to them. Half of them cited them and half of them didn't. And we just didn't talk about it. The kids spread the word among themselves. Did you know you could put in a YouTube video in there? And I kind of let them just figure it out. Again, they're 10. I love them. And then if you go to student sites, this is where it's a good time to remind you, yes, they are 10. Or they were. Come on. Okay, now I'm clicking on it and it doesn't go there, John.
It's going there.
I breathe on it and it goes there. Okay, so here's each of these links to a student site. Here's the fun story that we take away from this. As it just so happens, these kids, this is last year when they were in 5th grade, are now in 6th grade, and their science teacher came to me over the summer and said, I don't want to, remember I said about the trifolds? I don't want to do the trifolds for science projects anymore. There's too much lugging stuff back and forth between home and school, and then the kids are bringing me the visual stuff instead of just taking a picture of it. I don't want all the stuff in my room, it's too hard to deal with. So, well, you know, he said, I want them to make a Google site like they do for the Google Science Fair. I said, go for it. He says, well, I found the template, so I'm going to set them up with the template. Okay, great. I just had to help them with a couple of little tech tweaks because they made a site last year in 5th grade. Now they're starting to make their site for their survey project. These kids have already created sites twice in the last year. I don't have to teach them anything. If anybody doesn't know how to do something, someone else in the class goes, oh, I know where that is. Oh, I can show you how to do that. And we move around the room in the computer lab because I can't be at every computer with 26 kids in the room, right? So having this experience of creating this for any age really instills this idea of, well, I haven't figured out how to do it yet, but I will. Or I know someone in the room knows how to do it, so they can show me. And that's kind of where you can take this idea. Now, my sites are all generally kind of plain because I do deal with children, and I don't want to overstimulate them too much. But they are allowed to choose themes. There are themes for sites, just like we've got all the fun themes for forms. So if we look at some of the element sites, you'll see they got to choose themes. Some of them didn't get to choose themes. I ended up making it a contest. By a certain date, if you had X amount of, like X percentage of all of the work done on your site, you got to fill in a form, a Google form, in which you chose your team's top 3 choices for themes. So the kids that were done, or the most done first, had the incentive of getting to pick a theme. And then I said, nobody can use a theme once one group already has it, because there's way more themes than there were groups. Oxygen got to pick this pretty one, okay? So they had to talk to each other and get the work done in time. I don't remember who else got to choose themes. But I also shared the spreadsheet with them as viewers only, so they could see that the other teams were choosing the themes. And kids were like, I want this particular theme. And I'm like, well, you better get on it, because you can't fill in the form until you've done this percentage of the whole site, and then you can go fill it in. So it's just over and over, this has some stuff embedded that must be gone from the internet now. That's one of the things about embedded. Over and over, you can just, you know, build in some of the different tools as ways to encourage them to move farther along. And it was pretty neat. Did they all get 100% on this project? By all means, no, because we don't all follow directions, so they didn't all do great work. So these are just a couple of examples of sites and what you can make with sites. And we want to hit on a few specific things, so I am going to go back to the slides.
But we're going to take a quick bathroom break.
Yeah, can I
Does that work?
Can we